ask me a lot if we should be worried about political violence in the wake of the election if Donald Trump loses. And I remind them that we have one very, very important thing on our side. On November 6th, President Joe Biden will still be in charge of everything, including the military. So I just heard that based on unsubstantiated rumors that Iran is targeting Donald, he and his campaign have requested military aircraft and vehicles to get him from place to place. So I want to say this very simply and clearly. Do not do that. Please. That's that right there. That is just seeding ground we do not need to seed.
That's actually from her TikTok account. Can we appreciate the sound was low? I don't think I can get the sound any higher. Oh, I could get the sound higher. What an idiot. Let me play it again, people. I'm going to break it up. Replay.
People ask me a lot if we should be worried about political violence.
Let me stop right there. Nobody has asked Mary Trump whether or not we should be worried about political violence. And I don't mean to make fun of the way people look, and there's no but to that. She's got a weird thing going on with her left eye, which I do wonder what that might be related to. She might very well have had a stroke and her left side doesn't work as well as her right side. But I noticed that nobody is asking Mary L. Trump for political advice. Let's play this through.
People ask me a lot if we should be worried about political violence in the wake of the election if Donald Trump loses. And I remind them that we have one very, very important thing on our side. On November 6th, President Joe Biden will still be in charge of everything, including the military.
First of all, President Joe Biden, it should be abundantly clear, is in charge of nothing. The dude barely knows what day it is, sitting there chilling on the beach while people are dying in North Carolina. But he'll be in charge of the military, in theory. You have to tell me what you think Mary L. Trump is suggesting here. Okay. So after election, if Trump loses, Joe Biden's still going to be in charge of the military. Oh, and she just heard this unsubstantiated rumor about a threat from Iran that the FBI and the Secret Service testified to before Congress. She just heard of it because this idiot apparently follows the news very well. Unsubstantiated rumor. I don't necessarily say that I believe it, but to say you just learned of it, Mary, you're an idiot. To say that it's an unsubstantiated rumor, Mary, you're an idiot. The FBI, Secret Service, intelligence said there has been a persisting, ongoing, long-term threat by the Iranians, credible, against Trump, presumably because Trump ordered these strikes that killed some of their leaders. So unsubstantiated rumor that you just learned of because you're an idiot, Mary. It's so early to be swearing like this.
So I just heard that based on unsubstantiated rumors that Iran is targeting Donald, he and his campaign have requested military aircraft and vehicles to get him from place to place. So I want to say this very simply and clearly.
And I think I hear someone else laugh in the background here. You tell me if I'm not crazy.
Do not do that.
Right there. Was that her or was that someone else in the car?
Do not do that.
Oh, that was her. Okay, never mind.
Please.
So don't give him military aircraft.
That right there. That is just seeding ground we do not need to seed.
All right, people. I'm a very simple person, and sometimes I can be dense. Can you all tell me what she's suggesting right there? That she's heard unsubstantiated rumors of an Iranian threat against Donald Trump that would require him to need military vehicles to transport himself from various locations for his own security. Is she suggesting that Biden should deny him the military requests for safe travel because she wants him to get killed by the Iranians, or because she just wants him not to be able to travel? Which one is it? And second of all, You understand what this idiot, demonic woman is saying right now. She's not saying if Donald Trump loses the election that Biden should do it. If Trump loses the election, what interest would any of them have in Trump anymore? What she's saying right now is that if Trump wins the election, they should deny him military protection, and his Secret Service protection is already as good as we've seen over the last 3 months. She's basically suggesting this is what you would call a dog whistle, people. If Trump loses, they won't give a sweet bugger all. They'll be doing little victory dances until they're blue in the face. It's not going to happen. It can't happen in the moral, spiritual, existential sense. But she's not talking about if Trump loses to deny him protected status. She's talking about if he wins. And that would be their only way of getting out of a Trump victory. But am I wrong, or is she actually not basically taking to Twitter right now, and I'm memorializing it with this stream, to effectively promote wish that Trump should meet his demise at the hands of the Iranians, who apparently have had an ongoing threat against Trump, to be facilitated by demented Joe Biden, or as my prediction will go, Kamala Harris to replace him when he resigns, because she wants him to be killed through the inaction or denial of protection from Biden. Am I wrong, or am I wrong? Or am I right? Something about this is not fully symmetrical. Let me move over a little bit like this. Good morning, everybody. Afternoon, I guess. It's afternoon here. Oh, there's never a dull moment. There's never a quiet moment. There will not be a quiet day until what? Ever? Even if Trump wins, the transition period from November to January is going to be wild. Once Trump is in office, as of January, I forget what date it is, things are going to be wild. So we might not get a quiet day for a little while. Who is paying her? She's seeking revenge. Well, unfortunately, the thing about evil and hatred and revenge is sometimes you do it with the blessing of your own soul, as I suspect Mary Trump is doing right now. You know, people always go to Mary Trump for political legal advice. All right, forget it. That doesn't matter. Now we've seen it. But you tell me in the chat if you think Mary Trump is hoping, wishing, actively promoting that something bad should happen to Trump if he loses, as if that's when they're going to care about it. Share the link around, people. We are going live. But before we even get into this show, we're going to thank our sponsors of today's show. We're going to talk about eating healthy and preparing yourselves for what's coming, people. A medical test can reveal your body's biological age, which can show if you are aging prematurely. Better nutrition has been shown to reverse one's bio-age. My hope of living longer and healthier is why I take Field of Greens. It's an organic superfood, fruit and vegetable drink. Unlike any other, it's serious nutrition. Listen to this. Field of Greens was approved by a university study that doctors believe it may lower your body's biological age. That generally means better health. Each fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens selected by doctors to support vital bodily functions like heart, liver, kidney, metabolism, and immune system. Only Field of Greens is backed by a better health promise. At your next physical or checkup, your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Join me for better health. 15% off and free shipping. Go to fieldofgreens.com, promo code VIVA. That is fieldofgreens.com, promo code VIVA for 15% off. You take care of your body and you protect your family, people, for whatever the future holds. And we don't necessarily know what the future holds, which is why you want to go to the Wellness Company. Remember Event 201. Just before an election, Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, and John Hopkins ran a pandemic simulation in October 2019. Months later, COVID hit. This is all true, by the way. Well, here we go again. It's October. We're on the verge of a historic election, and the bird flu summit is going on right now. And they're announcing a full-scale pandemic exercise coming October 21st in New York City. They're playing the same play they did the last time: create chaos, bring back lockdowns, perform medical tyranny, wake up. This could very well be their October surprise. We're actually going to talk about the October surprise that I don't believe is an October surprise just yet. One of the topics of the day. That being said, everybody, don't get caught off guard. Wellness Company created a medical emergency kit, and every home in America should have at least one of these, packed with life-saving meds like ivermectin, amoxicillin, Z-Pak. It's all backed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. Picture this: no more frantic searches for a doctor, no more emergency waiting room visits. Just a few clicks. The kit is delivered to your front door. It's times like these, having your kit is a medical necessity. Protect your family by preparing now. Get your kit at twc.health, the Wellness Company, or Tango Whiskey Charlie.health/Viva. Promo code Viva gets you $30 off. Don't wait until it's too late. Take control now. twc.health, promo code Viva, $30 off and free shipping. People, speaking of the October surprise that I don't believe is an October surprise. Okay, we're going to go through this. There was a breaking story yesterday on Twitter. The guy's name, I don't want to get accused of identity politics. But the dude's handle is called Black Insurrectionist. I follow back True Patriots, and his handle is at DocNet YouTube. I don't know much about the person's handle. I hate follow for follows. I think they're scammy to begin with. And in fact, if you go look at people's accounts who do the follow for follow, they invariably end up following bad accounts, and you can find out who the accounts are that did follow for follow. Bad strategy, bad tactic, and bad, optics. This individual came out and said, I've got a breaking story. I've been approached by, as of August, even before Walz was the pick from Harris, that this individual, DocNet YouTube, was approached by someone claiming to be a victim of some sexually improper conduct by Tim Walz that extended over a substantial period of time when this individual was underage. Okay. And the person put out what they were trying to, replicate as being a Matt Taibbi, Schellenberger type Twitter files reveal. Dude was not quite as good as, let me see, I just saw him. Am I on the wrong mic? Oh, son of a gun, the mic's not plugged in. Hold on one second. Let me see if I'm going to get the good mic in. There it is. Thank you for listening, Mike. There we go. And now it should be much better. All right. So the dude has put out a thread yesterday, alleging that he's got breaking demonstrable definitive evidence of this illegal, sexually improper underage relationship. And I'm going to walk through it because when I first saw the tweet, which was saying I'm going to come down and drop this as of Sunday. First of all, the follow for follow, I don't know who does these things, but people want to have big followings on Twitter. It means something. And so that's one way that people think they can do it. Suspicious for that. Fine. Also, I've got to drop it on Sunday. I got to get, all this other stuff. If you've got it, you do it before something happens. Suspicious. It doesn't matter. So I'm naturally suspicious of everything and everyone, for good and for bad. The drop came yesterday. It was 17 give or take emails, and it happened while we were live. So I was trying to keep track of it in real time, but I've looked it over this morning, and I figure I'm going to do the summary of it so that everybody can come to their own assessments. I did say at the original, at the outset of this, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. This we have seen in the past, and people have fallen for it, where these extraordinary wild claims come out, people espouse them, people retweet them. They end up getting sued for defamation for having retweeted them or repeated them. We can go back to the 2020 election in terms of for all the electoral impropriety that occurred in 2020, some statements were objectively false. And we said it from the beginning, these people are going to get into trouble for saying objectively and demonstrably false statements that could conceivably tarnish reputations. Barnes and I said it, and it ended up happening. These are extraordinary claims that this individual came out with, and the evidence that they have provided, aside from being questionable, because there are people out there, we're going to see it, who have been calling into question the authenticity and legitimacy of these exhibits, emails, whatever, even assuming that it's all accurate and true, is underwhelming in a very, very meaningful perspective. And it reeks of one of those either operations or potential inadvertent events where people are going to get caught repeating this, retweeting it, reaffirming it, and it's going to turn out to be bunk or even worse, a lie, and people are going to get sued for defamation for having repeated some of these per se defamatory statements, unless they're true. This is what it's looking like now. So I'm going to break it down a little bit, and I'll see if I can make some sense of it. I want to try to go in chronological order. I might not be able to because I got all of these. It lists my Twitter links in alphabetical order and not chronological order. So I'll just pull them up and hope that they're so this is the account, Black Insurrectionist. I follow back True Patriots. DocNet YouTube. Tim Walz post number 3. The guy says, look, this now adult got in touch with me in August before Walz was even the pick and said back in 94 to 98 or 96 to 98, 95 to 98, I had an underage illegal sexual relationship of the homosexual nature with Tim Walz. Okay. And this is post number 3. Tim Walz, post number 3. On August 9th, I received this email. This email caused me to act. I did indeed call the person making the claims. He laid out a story that was very incredulous. I told him he would need to lay out everything in writing for me in depth and detail. He agreed to over the next, they become pretty graphic. Okay. And the dates become an issue here. So look at the dates, and the email says, Doc, I'm sorry to be bothering you. If you could just hear me out, I can prove what I'm saying. I'm not doing this for attention. I'm not doing this to relive one of the worst times of my life. I'm doing this because I cannot emotionally or physically take seeing this man almost daily over the next 4 years. Phone number, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Here we got a community note on this particular tweet. It says there are multiple errors in this tweet to suggest, indicating that the email is not real. So let's go to that and we can have a look at this. Okay. I don't like to credential myself. This is coming from Agent Self FBI. I mean, this is where like it's a war of information on the internet. It's the Wild West. It's democratizing access to information, and some of these accounts are totally anonymous, which is also, not a cause for concern. You can understand why people want to be anonymous. Bottom line, I don't know who this person is, what their credentials are. Agent Self FBI. Let me see what it says here. Registered Republican Deep State Director and FBI's parody, Harris 24. Okay, I don't know what that means. Back it up. The devil's always in the details. Here are some inconsistencies with the alleged emails. First problem, exhibit A and B. In the screenshot on the left, you see Friday, August 9. While in the email on the right side, it says Thursday, August 8, without a comma after Thursday. Additionally, Proton Mail, like most email platform, omits the time zone in the date and timestamp, exhibit C, where it says October 13, yada, 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 PM. The time is not shown. Furthermore, the date timestamp format is inconsistent between screenshots. Proton does not use the leading 0 before single-digit hour stamps. For example, 6:07, not 06. Well, see, this doesn't make sense because, first of all, it would be 6:07 p.m. Okay, whatever. Also, according to Proton Mail header format listed on the website, this is inconsistent. And so you can see certain things Friday with a comma, and then later on you see Thursday without a comma. Okay. October 13, and these are some of the evidence. So you got some suspicion as to the credibility or the authenticity of the evidence. I'm going to oversimplify it afterwards and say even if it is all true, it's still wildly underwhelming, and I won't say recklessly so, but I wouldn't be the one affirming that this is definitively true, and it might explain why this individual might be doing this through an anonymous account based on an anonymous take or whatever. Okay. Post number 7. I asked the individual, this is from Black Insurrectionist, I follow back True Patriots at .net YouTube. I asked the individual to put into a letter what happened when he went to the Indigo Girls concert. This letter has some graphic details. He sent it as an attachment. I did see a few grammatical errors, but I did not change other than redact his personal information. So let me see this. He sent it as an attachment. I did see a few grammatical errors, but I did not change other than redact his personal information. The letter is rated G compared to the details I would later get from this individual. Furthermore, the second page was cropped, so it would be easier to read. This letter was about 1.25 pages long. Okay. We can go over this. And it's going to be relevant in a bit, but the bottom line is, here's my story document. We'll read some of it. He went to a concert. During the concert, he became extremely tired. This is from 1995 or 96, give or take. I think it should be 95, given the allegations that this coincides with Walz's DUI. DUI is known, admitted, and whatever. The story is uncorroborated as of now, and there's some discussion that this guy's going to go forward and take action. As of today, we'll see if that happens. Says he went to a concert, got tired, doesn't remember why, remembers dancing with Walz. I mean, this is a Word document screen grab. That is the evidence, and I'll put that in quotes. And it goes into some detail. It says, allegedly on the way home, they went to a gay bar. And then the kid remembers some hazy memories, doesn't remember things, remembers other things. A little fellatio involved in this. Then he woke up and yada, yada, yada. Then this is where we get into, go to the end here. When I finally got home, I did not tell my parents anything, but I thought I had feelings for Walz. I mean, all right, let's see here. I would continue to see Mr. Walz during 95. I spent a lot of time with him whenever I could. I can't remember the exact date, but I moved to another county in the summer of 95. My parents were becoming suspicious. In September 95, he came to see me. We were drinking. We got out that night. We got into an argument when I found out he planned on taking another students to an Indigo Girls concert. On that night, he left very angry. That's the night he got pulled over for the DUI. It was, in fact, in 95, but that doesn't mean anything other than this is either a meticulously crafted lie or it actually coincides and we might need to just, have more definitive evidence. Called me, told me what happened. He said he was going to be fired from his job at the time. It was in a different school district. This is when I started to learn I was not gay. Yada, yada, yada. What we got here? Let me see here towards the end of this. I would never admit to my parents what happened. Okay, that's it. That's the letter. That's the evidence that he's dropping is a screen grab of an alleged document that he allegedly received from an anonymous, as of now, person that contacted him. And I don't cast aspersions on the black insurrectionist. He might believe this and not realize he's getting played, if he isn't potentially getting played, in a way that's going to discredit him and anybody else who espouses this story, in the exact same way this has been done throughout history of the government. Okay. What this individual thinks is corroborating evidence. The black insurrectionist said he reached out to, first of all, here, just to corroborate the dates. Governor Walz faces renewed scrutiny over 1995 drunk driving arrest. This is when he was well over the legal limit, driving 95 miles an hour, pleaded guilty to reckless driving, and never drank again, apparently. That's fine. People have had transgressions, and a 30-year-old transgression of drunk driving, reckless driving, bad. I think it's something that people can heal from, come back from. Okay, but either way, the timeline of this story can be said to make sense. One of the elements that black insurrectionist raises is that he allegedly reached out to the Kamala Harris campaign. A few of these tweets are screen grabs of him submitting his request for information or a question to the campaign, whatever. It doesn't mean very much. And at the time that he did this, a story came out that we talked about over the weekend, which was the story of Tim Walz and Gwen Walz taking a gay student to an Indigo concert in 95, 96. And the black insurrectionist takes this to mean that, the camp got wind of this, and then they had some journalists. Let me pull up that article. They had some journalists, get ahead of the story, so to speak. Walz Indigo concert. Oh no, my computer's freezing. What? I'm getting the spinning wheel of death here. Walz Indigo concerts. Here we go. From them.us. So this story came out in August 21st. Shortly after, black insurrectionist says he approached the Kamala Harris campaign saying he had this information, was going to drop it earlier in August. And then this article comes out, which black insurrectionist in his Twitter thread took to mean they got wind of it. They're trying to get ahead of the story by depicting it this way. Talked about it briefly, I think, over the weekend, whatever. Tim Walz and his wife, Gwen, took a gay student to an Indigo Girls concert in the 90s. Spokesperson for Gwen Walz told the New York Times that she and her husband had grown close to a gay student at the Nebraska Public High School where they taught. This set aside the whole sexual impropriety thing, and we've talked about this. This is already weird. Like teachers taking gay students to rock concerts because they're gay is weird. I think taking students to rock concerts if you're not their parents is weird. But Minnesota Governor Tim Walz vies for the U.S. presidency. New details are surfacing about his teaching career, including the impact he made on a faculty advisor for a high school alliance club. However, sources say the Walz family were LGBTQ plus community boosters even before then, as especially evidenced by one extracurricular Indigo Girls concert where the Walz taught in Nebraska. In an interview with the New York Times, yada yada, a former student of both Walz and Gwen, Ne Whipple, both teachers at Mankato West High School in the 90s, described feeling stunned when Walz announced her husband would be leading the Gay Student Association, I guess. Right Hand said he had been secretary, yada, yada, yada. It was important for them to have a person well-known on campus they liked, right and told. Having Tim Walz as the advisor of the Gay Straight Alliance, sorry, not the Gay Student Association, Gay Straight Alliance, made me feel safe coming to school. Okay. He deserves more credit for stepping up. It seems to have been Gwen who also understood the raw importance of LGBTQ plus alliance in the mid-90s. Ms. Walz said she had offered support to another gay student while teaching in Nebraska at the school where her husband met. Spokesperson for Walz confirmed to the Times that the couple chaperoned the anonymous student at an Indigo Girls concert, truly one of the decade's strongest bastions of queer community camaraderie. Yeah, I think we're done with that article. So that's interesting. I think that story in and of itself is very suspicious. Written by Samantha Rydell. It would be interesting to if black insurrectionists had reached out to Samantha to see when she started working on that story. because if it's, whatever. Either way, Black Insurrectionist takes this to be colluding, coinciding information that they're trying to get ahead of the story that they know this guy's going to drop. And so that's suspicious in and of itself. You can either come to that conclusion or not. I think that story is suspicious in and of itself, but I don't think that is by any means extraordinary evidence of the story that we saw in that screen grab of an alleged attachment to this email. Okay. Some of the other evidence that Black Insurrectionist thinks confirms this story or corroborates this story. Apparently, Walz resigned from his position teaching, and it was approved unanimously by the Board of Education. This is post number 11. Here is page 4 of the minutes of the Board of Education voting unanimously to accept the resignations of Gwen Walz, Tim Walz, and another gentleman. The other gentleman mentioned is not significant. There is a possible tie in with him in a later post when I get into the summaries. And then here you have what I purport appear to be the minutes of the meeting. You have everybody who's present, called the meeting, 7:30 p.m., receiving communication and guests, okay. A motion was made by Cornish and seconded by Aldinger to approve the consent calendar consisting of the minutes of the yada, yada, yada. Resignations. A motion was made by Aldinger and seconded by Moore to accept the resignations of Tim Walz, Gwen Walz, and Byron Green. The motion was carried 6-0. Okay. What does that prove? Not to rehash the UHF, absolutely nothing. Not very much, other than they resigned from their positions and it was approved 6-0, because presumably when you're a board member or whatever, sometimes there's a formality that you have to resign. They have to fill the vacancy. They got to paper the minute books or whatever. Okay. That's another piece of evidence that it says they resigned. The theory by Black Insurrectionists is that they resigned because of the scandal of the story. What the third person has to do with that may or may not contradict that theory. If he says it's an unrelated third person who's also resigning, might just be people resigning. But there's no definitive correlation other than the presumed correlation that this had something to do with the scandal. Let me take this one out for a second, just to get back to. I think that's effectively the essence of the allegations. Post number 12. The previous post was the school board minutes accepting the resignation of Tim Walz on July 1st, 1996. Some people said this proves nothing. Well, on its face, it doesn't. Okay, that's great. Insurmountable, extraordinary evidence to evidence an extraordinary claim. When the parents of the abuser made a complaint, well, that would be something to see. Where is that? The school board had a meeting in March 1996. At this meeting, they directed Tim Walz to take professional leave. This leave was to seek treatment for alcoholism, and the, quote, private minutes of his second board was not released. Where is that evidenced? His DUI was in 95, not in March of 96. And so there might be some things here that don't make sense temporally. New business. A motion was made by Aldinger and seconded by the Moore to approve the land transfer. Okay, fine. A motion was made by Seaplum and seconded by Cornish to approve the professional leave request by Tim Walz. The motion carried unanimously 6-0. This is in March of 1996. Let me just see one more thing here. Would Grok know? Let me go see if Grok knows. Grok, when was Tim Walz arrested for DUI? September 23rd, 1995. So September, October, November, December, January. That would be 5 months prior to seeking leave. Professional leave request. Okay. It could coincide with drinking. It could coincide with that scandal. And no reference whatsoever to an underlying sex scandal. You can connect those dots or not if you so choose, but that seems more plausibly just related to his DUI potentially and the embarrassment that might cause for the school. Take professional leave, go get the help you need, and resign, and we'll all approve it instead of having you fired for DUI and that type of behavior. Thus far, there's nothing connecting it to the allegations, which is, as of yet, a screen grab of an alleged attachment of a story that is weak on details, weak on memory, and contains some allegations of physical attributes of Tim Walz, which people say you would only know if you've had intimate relationships with a bump on his chest, a Chinese tattoo somewhere, a scar on his forearm. Others might say that might also just, be things that you might have seen from Coach Walz playing soccer or football, whatever the heck they were playing. And the last one, which is going to be the alleged coming forward today. This morning. Black Insurrectionist says, last night I was given a statement from the victim to Tim Walz to release this morning. I must tell you, the victim has never told me of his intent to bring Tim Walz to court. I assume this means trying to seek legal recourse if possible in criminal court. I also have seen that I was doxxed. Don't dox people. Yada yada yada. Tim Walz falsified his here, but this is where I start getting very, very suspicious, because this looks like a moving goalpost of the accusations. It started off with an underage improper sexual relationship of a homosexual nature with a student, and now we're getting into yada yada yada. I received some more documents last night. I expect more today. Tim Walz falsified his resume. Who cares? That wasn't the issue here. He's falsified other documents and stories he told the media. Okay, that's definitive. We don't need potentially fake stories about sexual improprieties if they're not true. We already know that stuff. Many of you probably know that Gwen has admitted that they did not conceive their child through IVF. Okay, nothing to do with an alleged underage gay relationship with a student. Okay, so he's a liar in other respects, so that somehow lends credibility to this document, and now he's decided to make a public statement of the alleged victim, which unsigned, I'm going to make a public statement anonymously. That's not a public statement. And we get more of the rehashing of the details. So all of the links are in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community, and that's the extent of it. I'm skeptical. I actually think that this might be either someone who is a true believer and wants to believe and is suspending disbelief for the purposes of promoting the story. It could be a clout grab. It could be deliberate psyop, COINTELPRO type disinformation. Get credible right-wing conservative accounts to retweet this story, get them sued for defamation, get them discredited in the public eye, and use that as fodder heading into November election. I'm curious to know what everyone thinks actually in the chat. Very skeptical, and we should take it personally being lied to, says Oxygen. We got here, Tim Walz is a patriot and hero Trump never served. Okay, Tim, not a banned account, is a troll account, just so everybody appreciates that. All right, Viva, are you a free speech advocate? Is Rumble a free speech platform? Am I a free speech advocate? Yeah. Now, people can say, well, then you should be able to like dox people's addresses and threaten people and yada yada. They're okay, whatever. Not a discussion we're getting into right now. All right, my brother's in the backdrop. We're gonna go from Commie Kamala to Commie Canada. Then unmute you. You're here right now, and being a free speech advocate doesn't mean I have to sit there and listen to rubbish all day. You get to say it. If you're muted, you still get to say it. Doesn't mean I have to sit here and listen to it. Like, being a free speech absolutist doesn't mean I need to give my telephone number out to people so they can call me and berate me over the phone. So understand what free speech means. You have the right to speak. I don't have the obligation to listen to you. All right. If you are indeed muted. If you're muted, by the way, it's for a damn good reason. I only do it for the absolute trolls and people who are there to harass, harangue, and distract from meaningful discourse.
Wow, I'm getting fired up about the mute button.
No, I didn't appreciate it. Now I understand. Oh yeah, people don't. Free speech means everyone has to listen to their stupidity. You get to say it. I don't block people.
What did that guy say? Okay,
unmute me.
Well, look, with a last name like Noteworthy, you better.
I don't believe I've muted anybody on Rumble either. And
well,
so
that's a good segue though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why? What's going on? First of all, everybody, this is my brother from another mother. He's my brother from a mother. Our mother.
Same mother, as far as
we have the same mother. Your beard is so beautiful, Dan. Hold on a second.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, they have these apps now. You could like take a picture of yourself on Snapchat, and then it makes like a virtual tarot card with you. And for some way, somehow, it created a lion for me. I don't know what. I guess the beard emanates lion advocacy, people.
Yeah, that's what. So just so everybody understands, you are my actual brother. Your name is Daniel Freiheit. I'm David Freiheit. We are the youngest 2 of 5. Remember that time we fought over the what did we fight over? Was it a peanut butter sandwich?
Peanut butter. I gotta find those records.
I scratched your face like a little girl.
I gotta check the police report on that one.
No, find it, because I remember I scratched his face. I forget what it was. But he was choking me. He was like, I couldn't breathe. And the only thing I could do is like Homer Simpson, like scratch his face. And then he had a zigzag scratch across his face. So he had put the peanut butter sandwich in his face and took a mug shot.
I think you took the picture of me too. That was very kind of you.
Dude, we got to find that.
Muting. Okay. So the Canadian government loves to mute people. Did you know this? They mute comments on a regular basis.
I did not know that. I knew that Stephen Guilbeault, the Minister of Heritage or former Minister of Heritage, blocked Ezra Levant, got sued to unblock him, was ordered to unblock him and pay legal fees, and then he used taxpayer dollars to pay the legal fees for his unconstitutional blocking of a Canadian citizen journalist.
So the blocking is next level, and I just wish there was a streamlined way to unblock for the public to unblock, get unblocked from politicians, because it is a notorious habit among our politicians. I don't think any American or very few American politicians do that, do they? Never.
There was the issue that Trump was blocking from his personal account. I think it was AOC who sued, and then a lot of those dumbasses proceeded to then block people as well, despite the fact that they sued Trump to declare it illegal to block.
Also, the difference between blocking and turning off comments and muting. I think I confuse a few of those. So our own Governor General, who's the representative of His Majesty in Canada, has turned off comments on all her posts. And I noted it was a viral tweet that not even the Supreme Leader of Iran has blocked comments on his posts. I was like, couldn't figure out why our Governor General has to block comments, but other countries don't. So consider. Food for thought.
Dan, tell us what's going on up in Commie Canada.
Canada?
What's it like behind the Iron Rainbow, behind the Maple Gulag?
Well,
you still have food up there?
Don't even joke. The crickets, they haven't force fed the crickets yet, but it's in the pipes. You're gonna get blocked for misinformation if we keep this up. Commie Canada, well, the good news I wanted to report, it is Thanksgiving up here. Unlike for you folks down south. What do you consider yourself now, by the way? Are you still Canadian?
I'm still Canadian, but I should have wished everyone a happy Canadian Thanksgiving. We should be thankful that there will be an election in Canada no later than 2025, and may the proverbial Canadian boot be rammed so far up the butt of Justin Trudeau as he's yeeted out of the door that he should remember it for a lifetime.
So he might be actually resigning earlier, fingers crossed, but apparently there's some type of disruption in his caucus where they're trying to get him to resign earlier. So we'll see. It would be nice.
Hold on. So there were some rumors that he fled to Laos and that they were calling an early election. I said, that's all rumors as far as I could tell. What is the rumors that he's going to resign before the end of
I think that was,
the next election?
That was the rumor circulating, that a bunch of members of his caucus were kind of pressuring him to step down ahead of the election, which, I think it would be a wise move, but
who could possibly replace him? It was not going to be, the rumors were not Chrystia Freeland. It was
Mark Carney. Is that his name? Carney.
Oh God, that's what you need. A Carney. A Carney. Mark. Let me go see if I've given this guy a hard time on Twitter. Mark Carney, Twitter. All right, let me go see here. Oh, I'm blocked. No, I'm not.
He's got some credentials, but he's pretty tough in his own unique way. Some people are more scared of him than they are of Trudeau. So I don't know if you're going from them to the fire to the fire to the frying pan, whatever, frying pan to the fire. I don't know. You got to be careful what you wish for in this country.
Now, Dan, you're still a practicing attorney, and you've been involved in some of the vaccine stuff. And what would you messaged me the other day? You said I had some good victories that I wanted to talk about.
Yes, the good news that I'm pleased to report. I mean, these are small baby steps, but the good news is that I think employers are starting to recognize that what they did was a bit naughty, and they shouldn't have done it. And so I can't really speak in any great specifics because, and I wanted to come on your show with a duct tape on my mouth, but I realize that stunt is probably not. But the reality is that most people are settling and signing NDAs, and there's no acknowledgement of wrongdoing at the end of the day. But I think the way this went down, there was no need. And I've been preaching to anybody who'd listened since 2022, 2021, when they started firing people. I'm like, people don't fire anybody. I mean, if you're going to fire, give people notice, working notice, which is, by the way, which is tricky in a pandemic, how much working notice you're supposed to give people. But I'd always advocated for don't fire. And if you do, give proper notice. So now it's all coming back to roost, and people that stuck it through are the lawyers that stuck it through, because these cases were not lucrative by any means cases, but it was more about the inequity. And so I think a lot of employers just took advantage of lack of resources and kind of were able to, get away with certain things that now they've come to answer for. So
been getting in ordered to compensate with back pay, whatever.
Not no order, but there's been kind of like an agreement that that people shouldn't have been fired for cause. Meaning that if someone doesn't get vaccinated, it shouldn't be grounds to terminate them for cause. So there's kind of an implied understanding that that was not, and there's cases now supporting this. There was no basis to terminate people for cause. Terminate them for any reason you want, but not for cause.
Was it these are private employers, not government employers, correct?
I can't really speak too much without, you know, I would imagine it's across the spectrum. It's across the spectrum.
Give me their names immediately. Okay, no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
All I'm here to say is that the industry, I think, is starting to recognize this, that it didn't have to be this way. And I'm glad that people are turning around, and there's more work to do, but this is a step in the right direction, because a lot of this stuff is not about, I mean, the money's like the recognition.
It was about ideological cleaning of house. That's what it was about.
That's my concern, is that these folks now, they've been out of work, they're looking for work, and they can't get back in. And on what basis? Oh, attitudinal, because they didn't consent to this whole regime? That's not acceptable. Get them back in. Get them where they left, right? And if you don't put them back in where they left, then now I'm thinking, well, okay, well, was there an ulterior motive here? And so, you know, that's where I'm kind of concerned now. So yes, I'm happy that people are starting to recognize that this, you know, settle these things. But now what's the next step? Give people their jobs back. Like, they shouldn't be left on the sidelines like this. So
yeah, who the hell would want to go back to those jobs?
That's a good point. The culture that's been created at some of these employers is really not good. So yeah, the question is where to go. Some people have fled the country, not looking at anybody in particular, Viva. But that wasn't work related. Quebec, by the way, is in its own world, by the way, with a bunch of stuff.
Go on.
Well, the vaccine injury, I posted about this, the vaccine injury support program, because part of my other work is trying to get compensation for vaccine injuries, which has been like trying to squeeze water from a stone. The federal, now I'm grateful for the federal government, because they've paid out 181 claims, which is like
for vaccine injury.
Vaccine injuries.
Capped at $225,000 for injury.
Yeah, it's a good amount. Like, it's better than zero, or better than what Thailand was paying invariably. But that's 181 claims, when under Trudeau's estimation, when he started rolling out the coercion, his according to his calculation, it should have only been 1 in a million. So there should have been 40 injuries paid out.
Yeah, well, that's per jab. So if there are some people who got 6, then you multiply that. Then you'd have at least you'd have like 6, 12, 18, 24. It's 240.
Point being is Quebec has paid basically zero. So you don't have to be a statistician to figure out, why is Quebec paying such a disproportionately less number of vaccine injuries?
Because they're euthanizing them, and I'm not saying that to be funny. Do you know the numbers of euthanasia coming out of Quebec? They had to like back it down a little bit.
I did not know. So they're tracking that separately.
Look it up. It was I think the third leading cause of death in Quebec at one point. Quebec was leading Canada. Canada was already leading the world. You have to go look at the numbers of. It was the Daily Mail that broke it, and then they realized it was so offensive they had to bring down the numbers. So they started, walking it back a little bit. But it was shocking. I say this not even as a sick potential reality, is that they were, euthanizing a lot of people who were grievously injured. And I mean, it's not beyond the Quebec government.
So, well, to your point, I believe they started. So, federal made medical assistance and dying provisions are expanding, but they haven't expanded yet, right? But my understanding is that Quebec has, ahead of the legislative change, meaning it's still a culpable homicide under the criminal code. Quebec is still letting doctors do that. So the question is, you have a province that they're knowingly allowing culpable homicide across the entire system. I'm like, well, of course they're going to be claiming that there's been zero injuries from the jab. There's other problems going on in that province, and it's pretty disturbing. I don't even
Dude, let me, this is an article from 3 days ago. Hold on, let me bring this up here. Opinion. Quebec has once again pushes the envelope on assisted death by allowing advance requests for MAID. Let me see here.
When was that from?
This is from 3 days ago, or it was last archived 3 days ago. Hold on, it was from. It's a relatively new article. Why can't
push the envelope? That's a very friendly way of saying.
It's no. Where's the one that tells us? I'll have to get the one where, according to Health Canada, MAID accounted for 6.6% of all deaths in the province. Then, 6.6%. It was 4.2 nationally. So, that was top 5. It's like top 3 leading cause of death. And Daily Mail wrote an article about it where it got some bad press, and they had to like, hey, maybe we should slow down the degree to which we're killing Quebec citizens. And still, still hospitals are overwhelmed, and they still can't find GPs for doctors. And they're floating the idea now of only allowing GPs if you're sick, and if you're healthy, then you go on some commie program where you can, get treatment on an ad hoc basis or an ad needed basis.
Right. I mean, at this point, you're kind of, scratching your head, like, what can a person in Quebec or in Canada do when there's things kind of going on? It's like you kind of appeal to the international community, and I don't even know if that, there's no teeth there. California, I think people have posted on this online, but California has about the same population as Canada, and the amount of medical assistants to dying is like 1/10 or less. It's like it's crazy, even more. So the question is, what is it? What are the systemic issues in this country that are causing people to turn to this medical treatment? And it's it's a pretty disturbing trend. And again, some people legitimately really want medical assistance in dying, and they're begging for it. But the reality is, it's a Pandora's box, and they start aggressively promoting this treatment to people that don't want it, and that's where it's kind of like, this is no longer.
No, it's assisted murder is what it is. They're promoting it with Kayla Pollock, who's the lady who was rendered a quadriplegic from the shot, and they deny them services. They make them fundraise for their own subsistence, and then they offer them death at every turn, because they say, look, your life is going to be miserable because we can't provide for you what we're supposed to provide for you. So have you thought about killing yourself? And they're still doing it with her. It's outrageous.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's unclear even with if or when a new government comes in, how that's going to change, because the whole regime is kind of now built around this model. It's like, it's not even, I mean, the federal government's not even really involved so much. It's kind of gone to the provincial level now. Even in Ontario, it's hard to get the CPSO, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario. They issue these directives, permissive directives, or even sometimes compulsory, that requiring doctors to assist in some capacity. So it's, as much as it's tempting to blame Trudeau for everything, it's like at this point, the wheels are in motion for, a whole industry. But that's the bad news. What other good news we have? We have some other wins on the, did you heard that I think we did. We talked about this last time, the Quarantine Act and inserting the things into your nose was considered a violation. Did we talk about that?
I think we did, but talk about it again, because at the risk of giving Chris Sky credit, he's, first of all, when I first read the Quarantine Act, and then they said, they can order testing. I was like, yeah, they can't order testing if it involves going into your person.
Right.
In the Quarantine Act, black on white.
So there's a non-lawyer, Chris, what's his last
Chris
name?
Sky. Chris Sky.
No. Chris, he's a non-lawyer. Chris Weisdorf, okay? Non-lawyer, got permission from the divisional court to help out with the case. And it ruled that the shoving stuff in your nasal cavity is considered inserting
going into your body. It's black and white letter of the law. Penetrating my face is what it was.
Right. So that was considered offside the Quarantine Act, and then you couldn't override that. So the question now is what to do with all these people that pled guilty to shoving, the shoving stuff in their nose that they acknowledging that they should have when they shouldn't have. So one project, it's just time permitting, time and resources, but those cases got to get reopened, and those folks got to get their tickets cleared, because they should have never pled guilty, knowing that, and they were basically coerced. It was like a shakedown at the border for people coming home. And they're just scared, and they just wanted to get the ticket done with. But now we have this decision from the divisional court. Okay, let's reevaluate those tickets. Shoving stuff in your nose is not cool. You can't make citizens do that.
Just to get... people were allegedly, and I only say this from their anecdotal experience, some were getting allergic reactions, like it would cause something like a minor ulcer where they rubbed it. Yeah, but it was obviously unconstitutional on its face. But then they would simply say, well, then here's the ticket, and we won't do it. I remember Chris Sky recording. It's like, I'm not doing it. You don't have to do it. You could just walk through the airport. They can't do anything. And he did it, and he walked right through. And people made fun of him.
So that's that's other. What also has to happen is a little chit chat with some of the police that were involved in that, because a lot of folks were basically arrested at the border incoming. And they weren't read their rights.
That a federal court declared that was illegal. But when they weren't read their rights or allowed to have access to an attorney, that was unconstitutional. But being hauled off to the government designated quarantine facility.
Where was that in the state? Or here? Was there cases?
No, that was in Canada. That was a federal court that said being compelled to go to the hotel quarantine was not a violation of your rights, but being denied counsel was. So
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
small victories. Are you familiar with any updates on some of the parents who were denied visitation rights for not being vaccinated?
No, that's a good question. I don't know where those are holding at.
And another one that I don't know if you're following up on it, but the cases, have you pulled out the cases where judges took judicial notice of the safety and efficacy of the jab?
That's gonna require some attention. I think that was a colossal error of judicial judgment for a large number of lower court and even the Court of Appeal. I think that's going to require attention. The judicial notice is starting to collapse because what we don't, I don't even want to say hindsight's 2020. It's not even hindsight.
It was foresight at the time for people who were reading. Like
2020.
And I not to say like I can't put myself on that wagon of the early. I didn't know what spike protein was when I heard Malone talking about it. All that I know is that at no point did I ever support mandating this and compelling it on others whatsoever. It was only through the utmost of reluctance and nagging from parents that I did certain things, but
yeah. So
it would be great, like to get a montage of all of these idiot judges taking judicial notice of what is now demonstrably and provably false.
Well, Viva, we don't speak that way.
I do. What are you going to file a complaint, bitches, up in Quebec? People filing complaints because of my tweets. They're activist judges who defied the law from the bench. And they should be in, I don't know what the process is.
My approach, by the way, to this, and I filed a complaint with with Health Canada because they can review false claims by certain organizations about safety, whatever it is, false advertising, right? So I've asked them to kind of review their own, why they called it safe and effective when, well, what evidence they relied on. And I think Tamara Ugolini, also from Rebel News, has some incredible communication directly from Health Canada. Saying, well, ask the manufacturer. You ask manufacturer about safety and efficacy and what basis those claims are made. I'm like, oh man, that's a serious problem. It's not getting enough attention. The way to get the judges to self-reflect, and it's going to happen, okay? Because I still have a beef with the federal court of Canada on this. That all 58 judges apparently, right before the election, declared their vaccination status on social media. I don't believe it. I think their voices were taken over by what's the court administration service. I think what has to happen is that a complaint to the Judicial Council has to be filed, and then the judges have to come together and say, okay, that was probably an inappropriate communication, or in the case of taking judicial notice, that was inappropriate, knowing what we know now and knowing it at the time.
Can you imagine they took judicial notice, which meant not only did it not have to be proven, it was presumed to be a fact, a judicial fact, as cut and dry, as clear as the sun rising to the east. That's what judicial notice was intended to be.
It's what you could take note. They could have taken notice of just was the fact that it was said that Health Canada said it was safe and effective. But you can't take judicial notice of the fact that it is safe and effective unless you actually look at the underlying data. I think that was a gross error.
No, but for sure. But just so everybody understands, judicial notice is a fact that is so that is so categorically true that you need not make evidence of it in order for the court to accept it as a fact. Like World War I officially started in 1939. The sun rises to the east. The sky is up. Like things like that, or that dates of death. Mahatma Gandhi died on a given date. Yeah, judicial notice. We don't have to come and have a certificate of his death in court. They took judicial notice of the safety and efficacy of the jibby jab. And for what? When it came out later that it wasn't even tested for that for which they were taking judicial notice that it was safe and effective for. It's a crime against humanity. I won't weigh my words with that anymore. So I would love to have a montage of all the judges' excerpts where they took judicial notice, because I remember reading it in the cases. I remember reading it coming out of the eastern provinces.
There was a great case about it, and then that judge got smacked down on an appeal, I believe. That judge did go through all the cases where they did take judicial notice or where they refused. So yeah, more work to do, but it's I think it's moving this in the positive direction, and baby steps. But I think it's one day at a time.
You're in Toronto,
Ontario,
which is the smelly armpit of Canada. Someone in the chat said, "Viva, you're going to take that jab from your brother who needled you for leaving." I don't think he was needling me. I think he was complimenting my intelligence. I saying, "Man, Dave, you were 3 years ahead of the curve." so you did not hear that Trudeau escaped to Laos or fled to Laos because of an upcoming election. I think that's
No.
not news in Canada. Okay.
No, he would get if he was worried about the election, he would get COVID and he would go to Vancouver or something.
And not just that, if he's going to flee anywhere, I think he's fleeing to Thailand. If you get what I'm saying, but bada bing, bada boom.
Like, come on, it's a family channel, isn't it?
I've been pushing on. Okay, so there's that. There's the elections, the COVID stuff. Have you been following the Jasper Fire hearings that Rebel News was covering?
I was in part. Not impressive.
No, so did I actually. That is like a total. We're simpatico.
It's a tricky situation. I know there was something that looks so quasi criminal by not letting emergency responders, like qualified firefighters, in to help out. And in that case, I think hindsight is a bit 20/20. Because when you start doing controlled burns, and you've talked about this on your show, I think that when a controlled burn can quickly go out of control. So it's like you're caught between, a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, but they weren't. First of all, they weren't doing controlled burns. They were having poor forest management that was burning the entire town down, and then turning away, accredited firefighting. And apparently it wasn't even just because their nozzles, their female bits didn't fit into the male bits of the fire hydrants. They weren't allowed to take water from local sources, and they had to sit there and watch Jasper burn. And then the obvious question is, a manufactured crisis so they could weaponize it for promotion of the climate crisis phenomenon, or as others like to call it, hoax. And so you say, look how bad it is. Jasper burnt down, such a devastation. We need to reduce carbon emissions in Canada, which represents 1.1% of global emissions, as if that's going to do anything. And so they let it happen so they can then weaponize it afterwards.
I don't know if they let it happen, but yes, were they careless? Could they have done better? And yet, in terms of weaponizing or leveraging this for political gain so quickly, that's where I'm most concerned. Because yes, I don't know what they could have done better. You let certain crews in, you expose them to risk, so it's hard. But the fact that they were so quick to leverage this for political gain, like that to me was the flag. I'm like, dude,
this was 2024, the Jasper fires. They were weaponizing the 2023 forest fires, which were the result of arson in a great many cases, denying that it was arson, then weaponizing them for climate change purposes, calling anybody who pointed out that they were suspected arson conspiracy theorists. And then there were convictions on the arson. I think the Nova Scotia fire, which was the largest in the province's history, was confirmed arson. Now, and then they say it's arson, but it gets worse because of climate crisis or, poor forest management or having fired a lot of the unvaccinated firefighters. And now you're stuck importing from South Africa because of your own internal failed policy.
They should definitely not be commenting on these until they have all the information. And like some of them are active crime scenes, right? So why would you wouldn't comment on that? So the commenting on this stuff and leveraging it like this is, and you get mass on Trudeau's friends there. They en masse they start tweeting about this or I'm like, we don't have all the facts. Like, stop it. And it's like, well, speaking of conspiracy theories, weather modification. Are we going there?
It's not a conspiracy theory. When there's patents on it, it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. The only question, the technology exists to some extent. The technology is being researched. The technology is being patented. The only question was any technology used in the context of Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Milton?
That was so far.
I don't think so. But
I'm not even going there. Like that was. I know some people are like legit raising concerns about it. I was wanted to dispel because a lot of the people can't tell the difference between contrails, chemtrails, and all that stuff, right? So I was like, okay, it's easy to just get a flight tracker and see if you're worried about a specific trail. Just get the flight data on it, right? And then get some pilots to confirm, right? However, there is a international treaty between Canada and the U.S., okay, for weather modification. And under our laws, the Freedom Information Act, you can actually access all notes, memos, all the stuff related to that treaty. Well, guess what? I did that. And guess what? They came back and said, we're not telling you anything because it's all, they gave me exemptions under the Access to Information Act. Why anything related to weather modification between Canada and the US can't be disclosed. I'm like, oh man, they're either doing this because they want me to make a conspiracy theory or
so they can it's weaponizing the propensity to create conspiracy theory.
I'm like,
transparency would eliminate conspiracy theories for the most part, but they deliberately create opaque explanations or they deliberately redact a ton of stuff so that people create conspiracy theories so they can then weaponize the people who come up with conspiracy theories as a result of their deliberate obfuscation of transparency.
This one was so significant in terms of refusing to provide anything, like not even redactions. I was like, okay, well, what would be the basis for that? Because This is stuff that affects public health potentially, right? If you have military planes in certain areas testing, legit. There's a whole weather modification, what do you call it, global treaty on using weather as parts of war.
They did it during Vietnam and effectively Operation Popeye. It's not, and then you say, well, okay, it's very limited. They can only, put a particulate matter that creates condensation for more rain. All right, well, I mean, what are hurricanes? The idea that they were using lasers, or the theory that they could use lasers to create high and low pressure systems to steer or it's the doctor, the Japanese researcher Kayukuto, they gave interviews on it. I mean, it's a known fact. The only question is whether or not anything of that nature was used for Milton and Helene. And I tend to say no, because if it was,
the amount would be like storms of that size. Like, you're talking about such a massive dump. It was like not even, you'd notice.
No, and also you're talking about an incompetent government. Like, so they're so incompetent and stupid, and Biden's on a beach somewhere that they're also simultaneously pulling off one of the most devious weather control systems ever, unnoticed to anybody. It's like I don't, and it's not to undermine it. Maybe it's possible, but a military that is now being called incompetent and woke because it's recruiting transgenders, also simultaneously being sophisticated enough to create a hurricane and make it go strike a specific lithium deposit in North Carolina. Those seem incongruous theories.
But more so now, because now any politician that even tries to raise this, Danielle Smith in Alberta tried to raise it. She made some comment about it, and she wasn't entirely accurate in what she said, but she did flag it, like it's outside. Some of these flights might be outside her. And she was like demonized for making the suggestion. So they're actually using it cleverly to
discredit and silence their oppositions.
So yeah, it's interesting times for sure.
Well, dude, I just want to touch your face.
You can.
Your beautiful soft beard, and it's probably coarse. It's probably like rough, like horse's hair.
Cello, play it on the cello. I can use it for instruments. Keep up the good work, man. People really appreciate your stuff, and I know I've got people that want to get on your show, so we're gonna have to talk offline. But there's a lot of issues that I think require attention. But I know you got your own.
Well, it's crazy. Then it's crazy. There's not enough time in the day, and then you don't want to make mistakes, which is you don't want to report on a story that you not do it properly.
Have to retract, right?
So now I'm looking at the black insurrectionist story, and the more I read of it, the less convinced I am that it's true, and it's going to be one of those psyops to discredit legitimate theories. What's the other
by the way, I just got a message. Someone on YouTube named their grandson Daniel David in honor of the Fry brothers.
Hold on, Daniel David and not David Daniel.
You're too RWNJ for the first name.
Don't. Right-wing nut job. RWNJ. Right-wing nut job.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say it's alphabetical. Dan comes before Dave. So.
Oh, true.
Dan, we shall keep in touch. I'll see you over
Good
Christmas.
Stuff.
Yeah. Handle on it's Lion Advocacy.
Oh, Lion Advocacy. Yeah. Follow me there, and some exciting, fun stuff will be coming up. So stay tuned.
All right. There was one person I was going to ask you to give hell to up in Canada. Oh, go watch Danielle Smith, one of her politicians getting re-education on the transgender issue. Did you see that?
No.
Dude, go. I covered it, but I appreciate I covered too much stuff. It's a stripper whose name is Carla Marks, who was a man, is trying to lecture a woman to berate her, browbeat her into saying that trans women are women. It was Orwellian. I'll flip you the link afterwards, but go look it up.
Okay, good stuff.
All right, dude. I was going to hit Instagram. I'm not going to hit Instagram. I'm going to kick you out. Dan, I'll call you in a bit.
Okay, ciao.
Right. Bye. That's my brother. Now, so first of all, hold on. The guy who said that I muted him on Rumble, I've been trying to get his Rumble account so that I could see if he is indeed muted. Johnny Noteworthy, what is your Rumble handle? I'm looking in the who has been muted, and by and large, it's people impersonating my account. It's spammers and fake accounts. So Johnny Noteworthy, let me know who you are. This is that's it. Okay, good. There was something that we were going to talk about. There was something I was supposed to do. Stratospheric aerosol injections equals chemtrails. Now they're talking about putting out particulate matter to reflect the sun, much like what a volcano does. The only question I'm asking is if it reflects out the sun, what does it bounce down in terms of retaining within the atmosphere, things that might need to naturally escape? But I'm no scientist. I'm just a RWNJ. John Jelaine If free-range hens can convert bugs into eggs, would this be a problem with Bill Gates? That's one of my theories, by the way, is I'm a vegetarian because all I eat are cow, and cows eat grass. Therefore, if a cow eats grass and consists of nothing but grass, transformed into cow, a cow necessarily eating meat or eating a cow is necessarily vegetarianism. Speaking of vegetarianism and not, King of Biltong is in the house, and he says Biltong is one of the most protein-dense foods in the world, packed with B12, zinc, iron, creatine, and more. Need a healthy snack? Get yours at Biltong USA. Viva 10 for 10% off. Game is available. And then we've got the more liberty-minded men become, says Ginger Ninja, 1776. The more masculine they look physically. Daniel, you look better every time you come on here, brother. Not that you didn't before. Also, you are taller than Viva. Yes, Dan is taller than Viva. And we got Lisa Franceschi in the corner, says, I'm an avid fan, Viva. I'm Tweety on X. And I think I know that handle because I think you were reporting also on the Tim Walz story. Okay, people, I'm going to a doctor to get an MRI requisition so I can go have an MRI on my knee, hopefully today and maybe tomorrow. Going crazy. It's like I've only missed one day of exercise, but I feel crazy because like when I miss exercise and when I know that I can't, I was going to try to go on a bike. I'll see if I can go on a bike. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I got that at 2:30, so we're going to have to make sure we're within the time frame. I wanted to talk about the other story of the day, which was the alleged foiled whatever nth assassination attempt we were on for Donald Trump yesterday. The accused is a guy named Vem Miller. I was skeptical of anything about this story as it was initially being reported because it made no sense. A dude being arrested for conspiracy to assassinate President Trump and then released on $5,000 bond. So it made no sense. Plus, you go to the guy's Instagram feed, and he does not look like an anti-Trump would-be assassin. Actually, looks like a very prominent supporter. Has a bunch of selfies with Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK Jr., videos of Donald Trump. He went to the Milwaukee event. I don't remember, but I ran into him on the streets of Milwaukee. So I looked into it. He put out a 1 hour video explaining what happened, and who was it that put out something of a summary of it? Come on now, where is it? Whatever, I'll get it afterwards. It's a 17-minute video, but the long story short of Vem Miller's explanation is that he's a documentary journalist type fit person. He carries guns around with him because Second Amendment rights, self-defense, protection, etc. He was approaching the event, but was on the outer perimeter, which, according to what the sheriff said, was far beyond any further interior perimeter. Volunteered the information that he was carrying firearms because he was looking for a place to park his car. Was then pulled over, and allegedly, according to the sheriff, he had fake VIP access passes. And apparently what Van Miller says is that he actually had invite passes, which looked different than the other passes. And so Van Miller's explanation, it goes into a lot of detail about how he was detained in the police car in hot weather, denied his right for his phone call, etc. You know, I say you're carrying around a gun near a political event within any broad orbit, you're asking for trouble. For right or for wrong, it's just a matter of fact. But I listened to his explanation, and his explanation makes a whole hell of a lot more sense. If to the extent that it might display some poor judgment, it makes a whole hell of a lot more sense than the explanation given by the sheriff, which we're going to listen to right now. This is the sheriff. We're going to listen to the whole thing because I just want to highlight where very little of it makes sense. This is from David J. Harris. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, he's a Chad, gives statement on Trump's third assassination attempt. The suspect had several guns, fake passports, fake driver's license, allegedly, fake VIP credentials, allegedly, a fake license plate, allegedly. And the only thing he was charged with was, possession of an unregistered firearm? Sheriff Bianco says the investigation has been turned over to the FBI Secret Service.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here today. I am Chad Bianco. I'm the Sheriff of Riverside County, and we are obviously here to talk about an incident that occurred yesterday at the rally that former President Trump had in Coachella. Yesterday afternoon, before former President Trump arrived to the rally, we made contact with an individual on the inner perimeter of our operation at the rally. As you can imagine, this was a very large event in regard to previous attempts on the former president's life. This was not something that we were taking lightly. We had a very detailed plan in place on how we were going to keep not only the former president safe, but all of the participants or the attendees of the rally safe. In general terms, I will tell you that we had a larger,
broader
outside
perimeter. Okay,
and
good.
then an inside perimeter
That was totally secure.
completely controlled by us, by Riverside County Sheriff's deputies, and both of them served different purposes.
Let me put on pause here. Not to poison the well. This is the guy. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. Deputies take a knee to show solidarity with protesters. Riverside, California. Though Riverside experienced some tense moments amid ongoing protests and looting across the region, there were also some displays of solidarity between law enforcement and protesters. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and a group of deputies were seen taking a knee alongside protesters during BLM riots. Well, I should not misquote it. Taking a knee during a demonstration. This was during the Summer of Love. So this gives you an idea as to who Chad Bianco is if we're going to assess a person based on their past actions. Okay, let me get back to the video here so we can read this. Listen to this.
Only people that were allowed with inside the perimeter, the outside perimeter in a vehicle was if you lived there or if you had documentation that said you were going to this rally. He approached the outside perimeter, gave all indications that he belonged there, that he was that he was a participant that was allowed to get into VIP and to and a press corps, and so he was allowed through that outer perimeter. As he got to the inside perimeter, where deputies were conducting obviously a more thorough evaluation of the vehicles that were coming in, there were many irregularities that popped up. The deputy noticed that the interior of the vehicle was in quite disarray. The vehicle had an obviously fake license plate.
It had an obviously fake license plate. Just remember all of these elements when they talk about what this guy was ultimately charged with.
And that prompted further investigation from our deputy into why the person was there and what he was doing.
Bear in mind, this person was at Milwaukee. This person is at a number of events. He's on his Instagram page, self-proclaimed documentarian of sorts.
During that investigation, the deputy eventually found multiple passports with multiple names, multiple driver's license with different names. The vehicle was
multiple passports with multiple names. With his face or random passports. What looked like passports, multiple driver's license, and the charges
was unregistered, and the license plate, multiple names, multiple driver's license with different names. The vehicle was unregistered, and the license plate was what we in law enforcement would recognize as one that is homemade and indicative of a group of individuals that claim to be sovereign citizens. And assuming the deputy assumes that he was part of that identifying group.
I'm very curious to know what that license plate looks like. If it's a fake license plate, I presume that's easily a state charge. If it's an unregistered vehicle, I assume that's easily a state charge. The falsified passports, I presume, would be federal. The falsified license, I presume that depends what state that license would be. I'm not sure about that. I do have my questions as to what would be federal charges and what would be Cali state charges here. But a fake license plate in the state of California, I presume that would be a state charge.
So during the investigation, obviously those identification documents were found in addition to a loaded handgun and a shotgun. Obviously, this was before the former president arrived. The person was taken into custody. He was eventually booked into jail on those charges, and eventually
those charges. He didn't mention the charges.
He was released. He will have to further his court case is in the future. Right now, we are actively engaged in working with Secret Service and the FBI to ensure that this person is followed up on and all of the information that they can gather. I can tell you that from my perspective, from a state law enforcement agency's perspective, the firearms charges is what we arrested him for and booked him on. Anything further will come from the federal government. And quite frankly, I don't know if we will be a part of that. We will certainly be a part of that investigation and cooperating with them. But those charges, if any, will come from them. They will not come from us.
So it's very, very curious. And I admit that there's an element I don't understand as to where the state charges are brought versus federal charges. I mean, I understand that there's federal law and then there's state law. I would presume that a number of the things that he described here could easily be state charges if they wanted to bring those charges. And now they're saying we're throwing out a ton of accusations, falsified passports, falsified license plate, multiple falsified ID, driver's licenses with no further details. And then to say that the only charges we brought were for the firearm registration, and then we've left them in. If the feds don't do anything, the feds won't do anything. It doesn't make sense. To me, it smells like some poor judgment on behalf of Van Miller, although maybe he has his reasons, and a police chief who wants to be a hero, or at least play the role of one, as to someone who stopped what they claimed was another assassination attempt. This is a more recent article, Los Angeles Times. No evidence so far assassination attempt after man arrested near Trump rally. Okay, and they say authorities investigating the armed man Tuesday outside the rally found no evidence that he was planning an assassination attempt. Federal officials continue to investigate, but the man remains free on $5,000 bail. And the sources so far say he remains on the sources say so far the focus remains on the gun possession charge that led to his arrest. Van Miller of Las Vegas was booked, yada, 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 possessing a loaded firearm, registered. He has since been released on bail pending a court appearance. And let me see the Riverside. There's absolutely no way any of us are going to truly know what is going on in the suspect's head. Okay. And he had a friend of his on Twitter who came out and said, absolutely, the man is totally innocent of whatever they've accused him at. He's a Trump fan and not a Trump would-be assassin. What that police officer made by way of factual statements, big if true, and big if not true as well. Okay, let's go over here to vivabarneslaw.locals.com because we're going to have to... Ali Michael. Viva, I just discovered this guy. He's a chiropractor for animals. Thought you might be interested. I guarantee you I know exactly who it is already. Is it the German guy who's cracking dogs' backs? No, it's called the Animal Cracker. Well, dude, now this is Ali Michael in our locals community. Thank you, because I will go on a deep dive on that. We got Shaylina in locals. Says sometimes the app or on the phone itself disconnects the audio. I periodically have to either hit pause and then replay or hit speaker button on and off. This happened today at the beginning of your podcast. Then to calm down, I'll screen grab that and send it over to the team. Finboy Slick says, who was the provincial prime minister who thanked you know who you are for the rains during the forest fires a couple of years ago? I don't remember who that was, Finboy. I'm going to go look that up in a second. Roostang in local says, Viva, please ask your bro if he's a little jealous that while he's stuck battling the nasty justice system in Canada, you are in Florida. Vivre la belle vie, living the good life. Encryptus says, what is the credibility of the story when compared to the Brett Kavanaugh allegations? I think that since that was taken to the level it was, this should have the same level of seriousness and impact. Bring on the public hearings. Well, the thing is, though, I thought the Kavanaugh hearings were a joke, and so I wouldn't want to apply that same standard. But at the very least, at least they had a non-anonymous source for the Kavanaugh hearings, albeit a batshit crazy one in my humble view. Robin Sage says, thank you so much for my fellow members who sent me some thoughts and prayers up after having to get my ruptured appendix out. I felt like death most of last week. I believe you guys helped me out a lot. Thank you, Viva, and thank you, fellow members. Robin, there is positive energy on this universe, and I firmly believe it. So I hope you're healing up. I hope you're healing up good. Boopsy says, Viva, your hair on the top of your head has what looks like a unicorn hair growing, and it looks purple. Hold on, let me see. It's probably too late now. Oh, right there. Right. There we go. I'll just leave it like that. Oh, you stop. Okay, bring it down here. Yeah, whatever. We're gonna have to live with that. What do we got here? Just bring this one up because I can. He gave an interview on the Gateway Pundit. See it. This is Van Miller. For sure, I might even just reach out to him myself. Okay, then let's go back up to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Finboy Slick, you have 2 weeks to get a mullet and give us a proper October surprise, Viva Fry. Oh, Lordy. Okay, let me see what's going on here in the backdrop. Do I have in the back? Okay, Black Insurrectionist. What was this one? I think this one we already got to. Okay, yeah, so this one I got to. I think I'm going to save the one story for our vivabarneslaw.locals.com after party because it's a funny one. Okay, we did it. We're good. So I'm going to cut the show a little short today because I do have to get to the doctor. It shouldn't be too bad, but I want to give our locals community the proper after party tomorrow, people. Tomorrow at 12:30, Zachary Apotheker. And we are going to talk about, he's the border agent, whistleblower. This is a letter to Mr. Apotheker. This letter is to inform you that you're currently under investigation by U.S. Customs Border Patrol for allegations related to serious breaches of integrity and/or security policies. These allegations also give rise to significant concerns of questionable judgment on your part as a federal law enforcement officer. Yeah, holy shit, I just got nervous that I actually read something that wasn't public. This was tweeted. So you can't see it, whatever. Tomorrow, 12:30, Zach Apotheker, the whistleblower from the Border Patrol. It's going to be incredible. And people, I'll see if I have what I believe is a level 3 tear of the MCL. We'll see. Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? I didn't. Locals, come on over if you're coming. I'm going to give the link in both. Thank you for being here, bro, by the way. Happy Monday. Where am I going? I'm going to YouTube to give everyone the link to locals. And this will be for everybody, not just supporters, because I use StreamYard to interview my brother. So it will be for everybody. Come on over to link to locals. No obligation to be a paying supporter, but you can sign up for a yearly subscription. If you want $10 a month, $100 a year, you can get some merch at vivafry.com. I'll put out a short video this afternoon. Solo parenting, but only with one kid all week. Got to go squeeze Pudge out. Winston and Pudge are sleeping, so we're good here. So I'm going to end it on YouTube like this. Remove. Come on over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com.